The Carhartt Detroit Jacket is one of the most popular workwear items ever made. From its humble beginnings in the 1950s to its status as a cultural icon of the 21st century, this is the history and legacy of the Carhartt Detroit Jacket. Welcome, I'm Carl Murawski, and this is the channel that helps you own better, look better, and live better. I'm so glad that you're here with me today. We're gonna talk about the history of the Detroit Jacket, all the way up to the brand new Icon's re-engineered model. We're gonna talk about some of the highlights, some of the differences between them, and we're gonna settle once and for all which jacket is in the movie Interstellar. But I found that often when you're looking for the origin of something, it helps to start at the source.
Now allow me to reintroduce myself. They call me J.O.N. to the easy E-N. Know that we undefeated.
All right, so obviously this was a mistake. Nobody around here is wearing any Detroit jackets. It's also August, but hang on a second. What's that? Luckily, Detroit is home to the Carhartt flagship store. Surely if there was someone who knew what's up with the Detroit Jacket, they would be in here. What's up, man? What's up with the Detroit Jacket? While the sales associate was able to point me in the direction of the new Detroit Jacket, he suggested that I go to the Carhartt headquarters in nearby Dearborn for more information on the history.
Hello, where are the Detroit Jackets?
Okay, they don't know where the Detroit Jackets are, but I found a Detroit room, and if it's anywhere, it's probably in here. All right, that's locked. All right, we gotta go somewhere else. All right, where do they keep the Detroit Jackets? Hey, any idea where the Detroit Jackets are? No? Okay. This guy's doing some cool stuff, though. Check this out. What's up, dude?
Hey,
Good, good. I'm doing a video on the Detroit Jacket. Is that, like, something you could maybe help me with?
well, you know, I'm Carhartt's archivist and historian, so my name's Dave. I might know a few things about that. Yeah, sure. So when it comes to the Detroit Jacket, it was introduced in 1954. This is the oldest one that I have in the archive here at Carhartt, but it's a little bit later. It's like late 50s, but it's still got all those same design elements from when it was introduced. It's got our original blanket lining pattern and blanket line design in there, which was produced for us by Troy Mills. It has our logo from the time, the classic Carhartt logo, which we had for many years. But really all these design elements, you know, a lot of these design elements you see on here still very similar today. You know, it's a silhouette we don't like to change much. One interesting difference though that you might notice is the fact that it had these buttons on it to attach a hood back in the day. So we actually would not really sell hooded jackets. You could put the hood on, you could kind of have one hood for all your different Carhartt jackets, which is a pretty good deal. We also sold it in these early years in an online version as well. So you can see this one, which is from a bit later. This is from the mid-1960s, but it was just the fabric, you know, just that exterior fabric was all you had. So it didn't have a lining or anything in it. You can see the label here from the mid-60s. This one, which is denim, and so I don't have a denim one from 1954 when it was introduced, but for that first year in 1954, we only made it in denim. So it was introduced in 1954 in denim. By 55, we had the brown duck. So this is the oldest one I have in the archive. However, the denim one actually predates the brown duck.
And when they bought them back then, it was just a zipper jacket.
Yes, yes. So I keep saying Detroit Jacket, which is what we call it today, of course. But that name didn't come in until the 90s when we started to expand our outerwear and have all these different styles where we had to come up with these names for them, like Detroit Jacket. Prior to that, we kind of had a smaller amount of outerwear and jacket offerings. So this was literally just introduced as the zipper jacket. We eventually started doing a quilted insulated lining with it as well. Back in the day, we would have these sort of core silhouettes and styles. Back then it was like we have our Detroit Jacket and you could get it in different weights of linings, different fabrics, you know, so you kind of had that chassis that you build off of. This is just a little bit newer denim one with the blanket. And this is when we switched to the blanket lining pattern that we actually still use today. So we eventually switched from the one you saw before, the super uber colorful one, to this, although initially it was the other way. This is a rather unique one. This one sort of illustrates in, kind of late 80s, but more in the 90s, when not only were we doing like all these kind of different versions of it, but we were even getting into ones with this kind of, special designs and patterns with like old graphics and stuff.
Yeah.
So this one from the 90s in this powder blue was a thinner, lighter weight one that actually, as you can see too, it doesn't have the corduroy collar either.
Right.
And we used artwork from like the 40s from our catalogs on the inside. Our first major fabric platform to give people an option to have something more worn in was our sandstone. So this is a sandstone version of the jacket. And that's why you see the leatherette patch too, what we call our leatherette patch. That was introduced to signify sandstone. And then you have the other side of that, which is a firm duck one that has been absolutely put through the ringer. So this one, you can clearly see the amount of wear on the inside too. But really the only way to be able to try to like sort of date this or determine when it's from was the tag.
I love the
in
fact
pretty
that
good shape here.
the lining stayed intact, and it almost looks like he's wearing a layer underneath it or something,
And this is a kid's one. So we have made a kid's Detroit jacket in the past. You can see the design is the same, except for a few little things for a kid. Like
Oh, they did a storm cuff.
Yep,
Okay.
they did a storm cuff.
Yeah.
So when you were to buy one in the store, this is what it was.
Yeah.
The way it was displayed. I don't think people appreciate how firm.
Oh, yeah.
This, I mean, it just, you know what I mean? It's been a while since I've handled it, and I was like, because we're going through all these worn-in ones, and then you go to what it started off as. It's like,
Yeah, that
holy
12-ounce
moly.
firm hand duck.
Yeah.
But these four that I got out are some examples of just some of the more unique stuff that we've done with it or that's happened with Detroit jackets over the years. We did a sponsorship in NASCAR in the early 2000s, so we did some special versions of it to sell, supporting our NASCAR car with the Carhartt Racing logo and stuff on there. This one is from a collaboration that we did with Chrysler when they introduced their Imported from Detroit campaign. So we collaborated with them in some little ways on a car, and then we made this jacket where we actually did, it's the streets of Detroit on the lining there. And then there's a couple of other different, obviously I try to collect our product history, but I'm also collecting items that aren't necessarily important just because of their product history. So we do a lot of product placement, we do stuff in TV shows. We did some stuff with the TV show The Ranch a few years ago. So this is autographed by Sam Elliott, which is pretty cool. And this is, I don't have the original version, but this is the rather limited version that we made of the Detroit jacket. And this is the type that was used by Matthew McConaughey in the movie Interstellar, which might be the most famous placement of the Detroit jacket.
This has been the source of a lot of controversy, a lot of people who have a lot of interesting takes on what it actually is. And some people think it's a custom makeup. I've seen that. But just to paraphrase, this isn't the one that was on screen, but this is the identical model that they used in the movie.
Yes, this is the identical model they used. I do a lot of placements, and I would love to have all those back, but the studios have their own archives and need to have that stuff. So this is the same model, and what has probably caused so much confusion is that it is a very specific model of the Detroit jacket. We only made it, I believe, for a year or two. It was when we were still selling sandstone as our main, worn-in version. But we did, in 2014, this weathered duck version of the Detroit jacket. So it kind of looks like the sandstone version, but all the sandstone versions would have had the leatherette patch, and it doesn't have that. So it kind of has that thing of it looks worn in a way that's not, from a person wearing it. It kind of just has that natural worn in look, but it's not sandstone. So what is it? Well, it's this very rare, RNJ001 from 2014 that was a pretty limited edition version.
Got it. So that's kind of the thing that people, I'm sure it's frustrating too, right? Because people want the original one that they see on screen, right? and then they're like, well, I can't even get that one because it was so limited. And so then there's confusion around what it was. Was it a, hand distressed one or whatever? But there it is right there. That's the one, huh?
Yeah, this is the style. So I'm sure the studio added a few extra beat up details to it, but yeah, it was kind of a limited run.
All right, here we are with the new Detroit Jacket, the Icons re-engineered one. And you can definitely see the similarities between those that were at the archive and this one. As a matter of fact, I'm wearing the same one right here, but just in a different colorway. Now, this material here is still 12-ounce cotton duck. That's 99% cotton, 1% spandex for a little bit of stretch. It's not as much as you would think in like some of these tech garments, but you can certainly feel it versus like the rigid duck. Has a corduroy collar that kind of changes depending on which color you buy. And the lining on this is very, very thin. It's almost like a shirt type material. So this is a lightweight Detroit jacket for sure. You'll also notice the inclusion of a storm flap here. So behind the zipper, there's a storm flap to keep some of that breeze from hitting you. Besides that though, this thing is very similar to all of the Detroit jackets that you saw before. And again, I think it's a great entry into the people who want more of a classic style but don't want to pay those crazy secondhand prices. And for the first time, there is a women's Detroit jacket. So what's cool is that they didn't just take the regular Detroit and then make it smaller and pastel. The cut of it is entirely different. As a matter of fact, even the material is different on this one. This is an 8.5 ounce, 98% cotton, 2% spandex blend. And you'll notice that a few things are a little bit different. First thing, the chest pocket is vertical rather than horizontal like on these right here. The Detroit cuff isn't there. I don't know why they didn't include that. But besides that, it's actually just a women's version, which is really, really cool. It also comes in 2 totally unique colorways. So, you have your typical, like this one right here, which is, I think, natural. They also, of course, have Carhartt brown, but then I think they have apple butter, and then one I think that looks like almost like a mauve or something like that. But they're actually pretty good looking. This is a really cool one. My wife is gonna be stealing this one from me, I can tell you that much. Now, this one here is model number 103828. This is the redesigned Detroit jacket, the one that has the drop tail on it. And a lot of people didn't like this drop tail because it gets rid of sort of the Eisenhower type silhouette here, right? But I gotta tell you, that thing is actually really, really useful, especially if you are working in these and you're reaching up overhead, or maybe you're reaching down and bending over. Having a little bit of tail coverage is really, really good. Also has the snaps, just like you saw with the old ones there, for a hood if you want to put that on. And, this is a little bit thicker. It also has a heavier, softer lining, but still, it's I don't know why I can never get these things undone. But this will definitely keep you warmer. And I gotta tell you, as far as a work jacket goes, this Detroit jacket is a lot more workwear, in my opinion, than this one. Sure, this one might be more classic, but when I was gonna go to work and I'm actually needing something that's gonna protect me and be useful, this is the one that I would want because it is so functional. But when you're looking for style points, well, that's this one right here. The 103828 has back gussets here, which is really important for stretch and being able to move. And you'll notice that the Icons re-engineered doesn't have them. I think they're relying a lot on that stretch to do all of the heavy lifting for you. This definitely is more workwear and it's still available. So I don't think they're gonna be discontinuing this. I really don't know. But if you need a workwear one, this one right here. If you want something for style, this one right here. This is the Carhartt Detroit Jacket model J97. Now, this is the one that I wore throughout my entire apprenticeship. They made this thing from the year 2000 to 2019. I think it was the longest run of the Detroit Jacket under one single part number. But they made it in 20 different colors as well. And some of these colors are worth a ton on the secondhand market. If you're gonna find a moss green one or a petrol blue, they demand a premium. But you can see that it has a very cropped short bottom, which I liked because I could access my tool belt without a problem instead of having to put it around my jacket. The other thing is I liked how wide these arms were. That means I could put a hoodie on underneath it and just throw that on top. This jacket lived behind my seat in my work van for years. And I would wear it anytime that it just was a little bit cool in the morning or in the later evening or whatever. And it was just a perfect go-to. It did everything well. And look at it. It's just a little bleached out, but it is no worse for the wear. And I have a serious affection for this this little jacket right here. 6QLJ. Now, a lot of people feel that this one here is sort of the pinnacle of Detroit jacket, and I can kind of see why, as long as that's what you wanted. This thing is, again, very short cropped. It has the nice wide arms. It's also available in chest sizes, so numerical chest sizes. This is a 42, and you can really dial in your size a little bit better than small, medium, and large. That way you can kind of go on the larger side of medium or vice versa. And this one is also lined in Carhartt's red quilt lining, so that's actually pretty warm. This is definitely warmer than the J97 in my experience, and I gotta say, I actually really do like this one. This also has the snaps underneath the collar here, which the J97 does not have, so if you wanted to add a hood to it, you absolutely could. A lot of people, though, this is the one that they like, and you can still find these in the secondhand market for, about $200 or so. But there is one more Detroit jacket I want to talk about, and one that almost nobody has ever compared that I've seen side by side with the others. And that's the Carhartt Work in Progress. This is kind of a little sub-brand that nobody ever talks about. It's actually a whole separate entity from Carhartt. Basically, they licensed the Carhartt name, but it's a European brand that makes streetwear versions of Carhartt's tried and true products. This here is their version of the Detroit jacket. It's very similar in many ways to the one that I'm wearing right now, the Icon's re-engineered. Has no back gussets. There are no snaps underneath the collar for an additional hood. The Carhartt Work in Progress is leaning much more towards style than functional workwear. Now, the interesting thing about this is that it feels a lot like this. So take a look at the lining of this right here. It's the same kind of deal, right? There's no pattern, but it's sort of a shirt type of lining. Same thing on this right here. The big thing that you'll notice about the Carhartt Work in Progress products versus the mainline Carhartt is the price. These are definitely chasing that supreme streetwear fashion side of things with a price that's about $275 for this guy you see right here. As a matter of fact, I think this was a little bit cheaper, maybe like $260 or something like that, although it is available in some other different colors, but that seems to be what Carhartt is actually giving us here. One of the things that I noticed about the fit of the new Carhartt jackets is the lack of taper from the shoulders to the waist. This gives a naturally flattering look, and it's something that I wish they had done. The newer ones kind of fit like a box, straight down from the shoulders to the hem. This may in fact be better for some people since there are so many different body types out there, but it's something that I wish they had kept. We're left with the question, who is the new Detroit jacket actually for? Well, you could definitely see the inspiration from the older Detroit jackets, especially looking at all those ones that they had in the archive. There is certainly a clear lineage and inspiration in the new one from those older models. But I hesitate to call it true workwear. I mean, yeah, you can work in pretty much anything, but if you're gonna get work, if your purpose is to get workwear, something that's gonna protect you and serve you well and be really durable, well, this new designed Detroit jacket actually fits those bills better. It has a lot of interesting features which lend themselves more to work. You can layer beneath this thing. The fit is a little bit fuller. That drop tail actually does serve a purpose. And if you're looking for pure style, well, the Work in Progress line is still going strong. It's still out there in a whole bunch of different colors in the way that they do things. So where in the world does the new Detroit jacket fit? Well, I think what Carhartt has actually done is simply given us another option between the workwear version and this very expensive Work in Progress version. Really, the winners here are the consumers, because now you have more new Detroit jacket options than ever before, including a women's model. So I think in the end, we are the ones who benefit from this vast variety of new Detroit jackets. I've actually taken the time to put together every single Detroit jacket model that I could ever find in an article on my website if you want to check that out. There's also a lot of very good information on Reddit. Anthony DeLillo has some great articles that he's written. And check out the secondhand market, because Carhartt made a whole bunch of these things in interesting colors and patterns. So you could probably find what you're looking for, although, man, these things are getting really, really expensive now. I mean, the Interstellar Detroit jacket, I haven't seen one below $400. It's insane. So get out there, happy hunting. But if what you want is simply a simple, lightweight jacket with a little bit of stretch in it that can do double duty as workwear, the new one's not a bad option. Thank you so much for watching, and especially thank you to my patrons. Videos like this are not cheap, but they're worth doing right, and I couldn't do them this way if it wasn't for them. So especially thank you to those people over there. Really appreciate it. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.